flash of white light lit up the sky over Gaza tonight. People running for cover, not knowing whether they're dead or alive. They came with their tanks and their planes, with ravaging fiery flames, and nothing remains, just a voice rising up in the smoky haze. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children alike, murdered and massacred night after night, while the so-called leaders of countries afar debated on who's wrong or right. But their powerless words were in vain, and the bombs fell down like acid rain. But through the tears and the blood and the pain, you could still hear that voice through the smoky haze. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in the night without a fight. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sorry about that delay there. Welcome to first ever broadcast on Palestine Liberation Online Radio. Yes, welcome. This is Palestine Online. This is Palestine Online Radio, going out to the world. And thanks for joining me tonight. We've got a live show going down for an hour and a half. This is just a warm-up act for the good brothers on the Homeboys. The Homeboys are doing a show at 7:30, so we're just a warm-up act for the good brothers and the Homeboys. Can you retweet tell 10 to tell 10 to tell 10? We're on Palestine Liberation Online Radio tonight. We're going to have a live guest coming up, God willing, from the Nutri Carter, who just a couple of months ago were in a meeting with... Why is it not coming up there? Hold on, are we going out? So if that's got it right, I'll record it here. Yes, they had a meeting with Ahmadinejad last month, so we're going to speak to the brother there, and we're just setting this all up live here. Again, the news in Palestine isn't too good. It's another disaster out there. The Palestinians, it's not a war. How dare anyone have the chutzpah to even say that this is a war? This is a massacre. Hold on, I'm just putting this into my Twitter. Sorry for the background noise. I can hear in the background. Hold on. Right, there we go. That's a tweet out. Right, here we go. We're into it now. The situation for the Palestinians is atrocious. The lies coming from the media is absolutely abominable.
BBC switchboard.
Yeah, can you put me through to 5 Live Drive, please?
Which programme are you trying to contact from there?
5 Live, the Drive programme that's on just now.
Okay, dialing for you. Hello, Drive.
Hello, is this 5 Live Drive?
It is, yeah, hi.
Hi, sorry, what's your name, my friend?
It's Tom Green.
Tom Green, how you doing? My name's Tommy Gold.
Hi, Tommy.
I'm absolutely appalled by the coverage that your programme is giving in your channel in general to the Palestinians, Tom.
Say again, sorry, Tommy.
I said that I'm absolutely appalled the way your radio station treats the Palestinians and all this issue. I mean,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, the use of the word militant to the Hamas elected government. Do you think that's appropriate to call Hamas militants when they're a democratically elected government acting on behalf of the people in Gaza who are coming under attack from a terrorist militant cell called the IDF?
The Israeli Defence Force.
Yeah, well, do you not think they're being militant by bombing 10 innocent people killed yesterday in an innocent attack? Collective punishment, it seems, is okay against the Palestinians as long as it's coming from Israel. But if the Palestinians fire a few rockets, suddenly they're the militants. Don't you think your channel and your show should offer some balance, Tom?
Well, we try to. I mean, it's not for me to say, to be honest, Tommy. I'm not senior enough or involved in the story enough to say, to be honest with you. I mean, is there some conduit through which I can pass your views on?
Well, who's the head of the Drive programme? Because I want to speak to someone who doesn't tell, who's clearly not telling the broadcasters to, instead of calling them Palestinian militants, why not use the word Palestinian freedom fighters from a tyrant called the Israeli government? Why would you never give that any airtime, Tom?
Tommy, bear with me just 1 second. Hang on a minute. I'm just putting you on a hold. I'm not going to you. Stay with me a sec.
Right, we can't have dead air, so I'll just have to mute him as well. So we'll carry on the show until he comes back. Obviously, the use of the word militant against a democratically elected government. Why don't they use militant, terrorist, IDF?
Hello?
Yes?
Hello, sorry to put you on hold. The best thing to do, because obviously we're an on-air programme at the minute, so we are actually dealing with putting the programme out itself as we speak, and we're a small team. The best thing I can do is direct you to there's a BBC complaints section on the website. Yeah. If you go to Google and just type BBC complaints, it comes up. I think the address is bbc.co.uk/complaints.
Well, what I'd rather do is to offer some balance to your show, is go on. I'm a representative. I'm working for Palestine Liberation Online Radio. We're in conjunction with Glasgow Radio Online, where we're a pressure group, we're activists, we're seeking to bring truth and justice to the nation's airwaves, and we're asking your good self here, Tom Green, to allow me to come on to the British Broadcasting Corporation tonight and to allow myself to address the balance on behalf of the Palestinians who have been targeted and massacred. And I don't think it's particularly helpful that the British Broadcasting Corporation can sit there on its hands helping a cover-up of a massacre, particularly when we're talking about a cover-up that happened in the BBC just now that we're only getting to after 50 years. Don't you think it's time to be proactive and do something positive instead of being browbeaten by the Zionist lobby? Allow someone to bring balance and perspective to your show, i.e. myself from Palestine Liberation Online Radio.
Well, Tommy, listen, I'm sure you can appreciate there are trenchant views on both sides of the issue, and we obviously do try to strike a line of neutrality in a very careful and the way we use language. I appreciate that's not always...
They're not using the word militant.
It's not always something that people agree with. There are views on both sides. I can't put you on the radio because I'm not able in the space of a quick phone conversation to verify your credentials, of course, and that's something that we'd have to do beforehand. And we've obviously moved on from the story as well because it's our top of the hour story and it's just finished.
Tom, okay,
and we're about to be off air. But as I say, I mean, if you've got a complaint about the way we use language or the balance or the casting of the story, then the best way is to go through the complaints procedure. I can't just pop you on air, Tommy.
Listen, what I appreciate then, Tom, is if you're on Twitter, I'm easy to check out. My soul site can be traced from there. Tommy in Glasgow on the Twitter, and I welcome you to join me.
So are you at Tommy in Glasgow?
Yes, if you add that on the Twitter and it comes through to my sites just now.
Well, I'll have a look at that over the. I mean, it's not something I'll be able to do right away because I've got to deal with a few of the stories that are obviously in the program between now and 7. But I'll make sure I have a look at that, and we'll bear you in mind because obviously it's an ongoing story. We'll certainly bear you in mind when we're looking to cast the story in future. But I'm not making any promises. But
no problem.
Thank you for making us aware of who you are and what you do, Tommy.
No problem. I'm doing a show where I'm going to be talking to a group of people called the Orthodox Jews. I can never say the name right. I think it's Nutakatri or something. I can never say it right, but they're Orthodox Jews against Zionists, and I'll have a word with them later on. But obviously, I don't know if I'll try and maybe get their details and pass them on to you later on. But I'll leave it with you, Tom, and thanks for being so open and forthright and joining me.
Thanks for your call. I always appreciate views. I know it's an issue that obviously a lot of people have got very strong views, but we do try and take them all into account. So good to talk to you.
If you can verify me out and check me out, then if you're interested in getting me back to talk about it with maybe a Zionist or an Israeli spokesman at some point in the future, I'd be more than happy to defend the Palestinian.
We'll throw it into the mix. I can't make any promises.
No problem.
It won't be me that looks at this story in future because it's usually somebody else on the team, but I'll make sure they're aware of it.
No problem, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tommy. All the best. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Right. So we're coming through 2 seconds. So retweet to tell 10 to tell 10. Right. So after 65 years, the real terrorists, the real militants, the real oppressors are not there, the Palestinians. They're in Bantustans. They're in open ghettos. They're in open prisons. They're sitting there with no army, no infrastructure. They've got nothing. And they're told they're the militants. They're told that they're the terrorists. When the people committing the biggest terrorist act, look at the amount of deaths and injuries so far. 3 people in the illegal Zionist entity killed. Is it hundreds yet? Certainly 20 in the last couple of days, or 40 in the last couple of days, 20 today, 20 yesterday, whatever it was. The numbers are increasing. And yet this little country, less than the size of Wales, can dictate to the whole world. It can even dictate to the only superpower left in the world. What kind of sick world, what kind of psychopathic world is it that we're living in, that it can be allowed that a little terrorist state can sit there in the Middle East, the gendarme, the right hand of the biggest terrorist state in the world, the United States of America, billions every year goes in to protecting and underwriting this illegal Zionist entity. And what for? What reason? Well, in declassified information from the American military junta, they state that this is after the Second World War, that under the Arabian Sands was the greatest material prize in world history ever. Well, what does that say? The greatest material prize in world history ever. And they follow that by saying that although no one overall power can gain control, they must seek to protect its interests by installing what Britain called the Arab facade puppet leaders. So we've got puppet Arab leaders in these countries that at this point in time have been overthrown in many cases by the same people who put them in place. So we've got these ferment of political dispute in the Middle East, where in Libya, Colonel Gaddafi, who was thinking about or tried to bring in inside Cameroon the Bank of Africa and tried to pull Africa away from the World Bank and the neocon slavery of the World Bank. So Gaddafi was bringing in a new way for Africa to be free of the Rothschild banking cabal. And look what happened to them. American military junta turned to people who they're fighting at just a few thousand miles the other way in Afghanistan. So the same people they're fighting against, supposedly, they turn to them and say, help us, fight for us, be our militants, and we'll give you weapons of mass destruction and get a control of this Libya for us. And that's what they did. So now the whole of Middle East is in flames because of these Zionist puppet masters in the United States of America, because they want control of the Middle Eastern oil. They've always had control of it since the Suez Crisis, when they battered Britain into the long ground. Britain's superpower became just a little lapdog, subservient puppy for the great Satan, United States of America. So they became the empire, they became the currency of reserve. Every country in the world had to hold dollars in reserve to buy whatever commodity. So we've got a scenario here, there's a world superpower being dictated to by a country less than the size of Wales, with nuclear weapons that could wipe out, if they fired everyone, wipe out perhaps the entire planet. How is this possible? How has this ever been allowed to be this way? It's absolutely criminal. But what I want to do, I had a little problem just at the start trying to get uploaded to my good American friend, and what I want to do, because I've not spoke to him, I've got his number here. I'm just going to play you a wee couple of minutes very quickly of the Michael Hart song, the lovely song Palestine. Gaza, we won't go down tonight, so you bear with us. I'm still trying to get hold of this. We're going to bring this brother in the next half an hour. I'm just going to make sure, because last night I contacted him, it seemed a bit out of the blue, but it had been a couple of days, so 2 seconds, I'm just going to put this in, and I'll be back with you, so hold on.
A blinding flash of white light lit up the sky over Gaza tonight. People running for cover, not knowing whether they're dead or alive. They came with their tanks and their planes, with ravaging fiery flames, and nothing remains, just a voice rising up in the smoky haze. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Children alike, murdered and massacred night after night, while the so-called leaders of countries afar debated on who's wrong or right. But their powerless words were in vain, and the bombs fell down like acid rain. But through the tears and the blood and the pain, you could still hear that voice through the smoky haze. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Right, hold on, there we go. Try to get hold of them. No joy, no joy. Oh my goodness, please. Well, I said 7 o'clock, so we're still at 7 o'clock. Peace, love, mellow birds. Well, I'm Stevie Monaghan. Right, so we'll get that boy back on then. We'll get him back on later on. Meanwhile, we're going to be talking to an expert on the psychopathic controlled grid that is the illegal Zionist entity.
All right stuff.
Yo, hello. Well, we've got a famous, well-known blogger here joining us, Henry Clarkson. Hello.
Oh, hello, what are we on?
Yeah,
I thought you were broadcasting soccer.
are we on?
I'm not hearing anything, what I see. Oh, it's probably my internet. It's collapsed. Okay, right, in that case I've missed the last 5 minutes. What have you been talking about?
Right, well, basically, we're here to ask you, how would you, how would you categorise the illegal Zionist entity in terms of fitting into what you spoke about the other day and the psychopathic control grid? Obviously, they're a small country, less than the size of Wales. They've got hundreds of nuclear weapons. They're the only country in the world to have not signed a border treaty. They're an expansionist country. So basically, how does this fit into what you were saying with, as I said, the complete psychopathic control grid?
Absolutely, it's a classic example of psychopathic control grid. Everything about Israel is locked into the psychopathic agenda. Where to even begin? One of the weapons a psychopath uses in somebody is to manipulate their emotions and create a dependency on them. Once they've figured out how their target thinks and what their character is, psychopaths are adept at pushing the various buttons to get the response that they want, and a lot of that involves, as I say, dependency. So they have created this myth that they are constantly under threat, that only the leadership can protect them from absolute extinction, and it's almost like these poor hostages that are taken and kept captive for an indefinite period of time. It's not even as if they know how it's going to end or when it's going to end. And these captives end up having a strange view of their captors. It's known as the Stockholm Syndrome, where they actually form a bond to their captors, even though they're being abused by them and oppressed. The population of Israel, to a large extent, is kind of like that. As we speak, I was reading there are something like 75,000 ground force troops have been mobilised for the occupation, the ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. Every one of those 75,000 people has got a choice to make here. Every single one of them. And they find it very, very hard to be the one who's going to break that bond with the psychopathic controller, between the oppression of the superior officers and then the media messages and then the victim culture that has been perpetrated and promulgated by the Israeli state for the whole of its existence.
That's interesting. I take you up on something there. The last incursion, which was 4 years ago, almost exactly, if you remember, there was at the time there was Israeli soldiers who refused to act on orders. Now, a lot of the things was kept quiet at the time because obviously, what they were trying to do and keep the cover up. But there was a documented evidence later on with numerous soldiers, like you said, who, given the stark choice of what they were seeing, had to make a decision to act on orders or to disobey it and face the consequences. Can you see anything like that? What would you suggest? How would they how would you get more people to do that, to rebel against their Zionist leaders? How would you envisage that would happen just now, or could be happening just now? Or these troops, once they get to see action, is that when they would pull out and say, "Hold on, not in our name"?
There are all sorts of possibilities. One of the things I'm encouraged by, and it's important to look for things to encourage you, because again, the psychopathic agenda is to spread hopelessness, despair, fear, instill that in their targets so that again they end up depending upon their abuser for guidance. And you break through that by presenting, or one of the ways of breaking through that is to present a positive alternative. And one of the best ways that we learn that lesson, or that we we take in, we absorb the lesson of a positive alternative. It's when we see it put into practice, when we see somebody else doing it. There was a famous experiment in the 1960s, took place around about the same time as the Eichmann trial. And Eichmann, of course, was a Nazi war criminal. His defence was essentially that he was carrying out orders. This was a very, very famous trial. And around about the same time as that trial was taking place, and incidentally, his defence failed. But around about the same time that that trial was taking place, there was a series of psychological experiments taking place. Forgotten which university, but the professor was Stanley Milgram, and he got volunteers to come in and participate in an experiment. But what they did, a lot of people know about this experiment, but I'll just outline it quickly. The volunteers were taken into a room where they were presented with a scenario where they believed that there was a teacher and a student, and the student was wired up to a machine which, at face value, looked like an electric shock generator. And the shock level started at a fairly mild 30 volts and increased 15 volts at a time, all the way up to 450 volts. And the switches were labelled accordingly, from slight shock all the way up to danger. And the last couple of switches weren't even labelled at all, they were off the scale. Now, the so-called teacher would question the student, and every time that the student gave an incorrect answer, your volunteer was supposed to press the next button in the series to administer a shock to the student. And this is what they thought they were doing, that they were being told to press a button, and so on and so forth. Now, as the experiment progressed, the student would become more and more distressed to the point of looking like, the mortal agony. And the student and the teacher, of course, were acting a part, but the participant, the volunteer, didn't know this. What was shocking about the findings of this experiment, around at the same time that Eichmann was sentenced to death, was that they found that all these ordinary people who just come in and taken part in this experiment, 2/3 of them would keep on pressing the button all the way up to the top of the scale, even after the point where the student appeared to have been killed by the shocks that were being administered. When the guy in the white coat turned around and said, "Press the button," 2/3 of people continued to press the button. Although they were distressed about it, they still did it. They followed the orders. Now, that part of the experiment, I think, is fairly well known. I think a lot of people have heard about that. What is not so well known is that in the follow-up experiment, Milgram introduced a variation in which he let the volunteer see the end of the previous experiment. As they would be brought in to take over, as it were, they would see the end of the previous experiment. And in examples where the new volunteer was watching the previous volunteer refuse to carry on and say, "No, that's enough, I'm not doing this anymore, I don't care what you're telling me to do, I'm just not doing it, this student is in distress and I'm out of here." In those examples, the new participants that came in to take part in the experiment, over 90% of them refused to go beyond a particular point. Now, we've gone from 2/3 of the sample being prepared to kill somebody because of an order to a point where 9 out of 10 will say, "No, you're not on, I'm not doing it, forget it," just because they'd seen one example of somebody standing up and saying, "Not good enough, won't do it, against my principles." Those 75,000 people who are being marshalled to take place in these continuing atrocities and war crimes, if enough of them turn round and say, "No," they won't be one person, because every one of them will be joined by 9 persons. This is a lesson that I think we have to try and get ahead here, get through to people. If one person can influence 90% of the sample, that's going to have a knock-on effect. And this is a very important thing to get through. We must encourage those people. There are Orthodox Jews who are speaking their piece. I've seen them on YouTube today. I've been looking at them. An American Jew in Israel who was beaten up by the security services because he was protesting against the war, wearing a Palestinian flag in his chest and saying, "You're not doing this in my name." Neither the Israeli government nor the American government have got the right to perpetrate these crimes in my name. Now, that guy got beaten up by security forces, but I'll bet you there's a whole lot of other people who have been emboldened by that. And these people must take heart and take courage, because what the psychopathic Israeli government is depending upon is having control over the feelings, the actions and the motivations of their targets. You can call them victims. Targets is quite a good word as well, because to a certain extent the victim word implies that you're completely helpless, but I think target is a more useful word. Israeli.
And we're can I just interrupt? We're see the part that you're on here, right? And the part that I would like to maybe concentrate on is that the Palestinian people, they know their enemy and they can see it, and God love them. I mean, the target, they are a target, right? But we have to understand we're a target. Now, how you can quantify that we're a target? I'm talking about the media. So when you hear an Israeli defence spokesman, Regev or whoever, anyone, an Israeli ambassador, when they're on talking in our media, your ears and your brain is the target for their lies and their filth. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to divert the real truth. They're trying to give their version of it. They're trying to paint the Palestinians as militant, as terrorists. And what the Israelis are doing, like you said earlier on, that they're acting to protect everybody. That you hear them saying on the message, if the Palestinians stop firing theirs, we'll stop theirs. So, and if the militants stop hiding in with the population, forgetting that area, that densely populated area of the world is one of the most densely populated areas of the entire planet, and there's nowhere for anybody to hide at all. If you're going to kill one militant supposedly in Palestine, you're going to have to kill 5 or 10 people like they did last night, because it's so densely populated. So basically, the target that we're talking about, and how, and what I'm getting to the point now, is how can we defend ourselves and how can we be proactive? Because if we're the target now, we can't do anything about the Palestinian situation. We just have to hope and pray that it stops, it comes to an end, and they stop killing them in the same way that they've been doing. So, but what I'm saying is, if we are targets, if we take on the basis that any time that these illegitimate, illegal Zionist entity people come on and pollute the airwaves, they're targeting us, you, the listener, and they want to spread their filth and lies. How, as a listener, can we defend ourselves? And like I just did prior to speaking to yourself, I phoned up the BBC and said, look, stop addressing it as militant. What steps can we do to defend ourselves from this attack of us being targets from this propaganda, which only seeks to do one thing, and that's to keep us from finding out the truth and keep us from pressurising them from stopping doing what they're doing. Instead of it being the case that, the Palestinians are the terrorists and the militants, everyone should be crying out, no, it's the illegal Zionist entity of Israel that's a terrorist. So basically, how can we stop, or how can we protect ourselves from being targets to these people?
Yes, the answer is very much within individual people to take heart from the example I was mentioning there of the psychological experiment. When you do something and you say, no, you're not on, you probably think you're on your own, but when you actually have the knowledge that ripple effect is colossal, that each person who says, no, that's not good enough, is not doing it on their own. They have the potential to change the stance, the attitude of 90% of the people that are around them by taking that stand. And we must concentrate on that aspect of the crisis. In other words, the positive
antidote to the psychopathic plan. The psychopathic plan is to distort our perception of reality, to conceal the truth, to make us think that we're the ones at fault and they're the ones with the answers. That's how psychopaths work at every level: individual level, macro level, state level, corporate level, government level. We are the ones who have got the problem, they are the ones with the solution. That's what they want us to think. Everything is geared towards that distortion of the truth, including the fear that they feed you with and all the rest of it. But there are still people who don't buy into that, and the vital thing is to encourage them to make that little step forward, because when people do that, it breaks a spell. It breaks a spell. A lot of people are almost in a trance with this stuff. I mean, it's not too far away to say. It's not stretching it too far to talk about in a trance. People are almost mesmerised by the sheer weight of propaganda that they're exposed to in a state like Israel. Here outside Israel, we have a duty to flag up all the people who are taking that brave stand, to publicise it, to give them support. It might not be a big deal for somebody to, change their Twitter name to something opposing Israel. But, when that starts rippling right across the whole internet, it does make a difference. It does make a difference. It gives some people hope. It gives other people courage. And within those 75,000 people who are being instructed to go in and commit the greatest atrocity of the century, they're on standby to commit a heinous war crime, to commit genocide. Within those 75,000 people, I don't believe for a moment that there isn't a substantial number who have got real moral qualms about this. But somehow we've got to get that message through that the science is actually on their side. The ones who take a stand against this evil and say, no, I don't care what the orders are. This is not going to be done. I'm not going to do it.
You're right, because the more of a cry that can be made, the Twitter world, they put it into meltdown, or all the social media, and the cry across the world, the demonstrations. I spoke to a girl off air, and she was saying how all the demonstrations all over the place has been remarkable, in just the last week from when it kicked off. And I think because what happened 4 years ago, people saw themselves so helpless in how to do something, and now the things evolved in the social media, and I think people are becoming emboldened that they can bring change, that they know they can go on whatever their Twitter, and they can bring ministers down, they can get people brought to account just by joining up and collectivising. So I think that what people are doing, that the more noise that people make all over the place in social media and demonstrations, that message will get through, because these soldiers are sitting there waiting to be deployed. Surely they'll be getting entertainment from their paymaster, so they'll be sitting on their Wi-Fi or their 3Gs, twittering away, and like you say, the more stuff they see out there, they'll be picking up and saying, hold on, this isn't right, and if they start seeing we're killing innocent people, we're not killing terrorists, so there is a part to play for every single person, for just changing your name, or sending a tweet, or picking up a phone call. If you see a number there, it's on the screen, phone it up. If it's on your thing, we just pick up the phone for 2 minutes and scream down to the phone, stop the killing in our name. If it's a British bum cream, or if it's the government, if it's a minister, if it's your own MP, just phone and say, look, for 30 seconds, say, look, you're killing innocent people. What are you doing to stop it? This is in my name, and you're doing it in my name, my conscience. What are you doing? Are you going to, phone up your MP and say, are you going to such and such? Are you going to your Prime Minister? Are you going to the Prime Minister? Are you going to the Cabinet? Are you going to do, the thing is for us to do positive, and like you say, not to give up hope, because what they did the last time 4 years ago, it's soul destroying, seeing what they're doing, and night after night, day after day, the punishment, the collective punishment against the poor people who have done nothing wrong. So it's soul destroying for us, and heartbreaking to see it. But the most important thing you're saying is, Henry, is to keep positive and keep tweeting away.
Absolutely. We must keep at the positive thing. We must not fight any psychopathic force on the ground of its choosing. That's a fundamental thing. When a psychopathic attack is taking place, or a psychopath is targeting you, you do not fight on the ground of their choosing. They want us to buy into their negative energy, because that's how they suck the positive energy out of us, and that's what's there energy out of decent people, and that is all they're capable of doing. Now, yes, contact MPs, yes, complain to the BBC and any of the other channels that are, that you have access to that are not representing this situation accurately. Do all that, but do not underestimate the little guy, because we mustn't wait for leaders to do things for us. We can tell them this is the direction we are going in. You can follow us if you like, or we can replace you. But the essence of the power is the individual. Do not let these people underestimate or make you underestimate what you as an individual can do. If you're one of 75,000 soldiers there, you might think you've got no chance. It's amazing how often it just takes a few people to say, I'm not doing it. Black people can sit in any seat in the bus now because one black person said, no, not on. And once Rosie Parks sat in that seat in the bus, that was a moment, These moments happen, and Israeli soldiers, conscripts, whatever has been called up to take part in this massacre, is an awful lot of them are wrestling with their consciences even as we speak. They're under huge pressure to buy into the psychopathic agenda, to try and argue reality on their distorted terms. But the encouragement that comes from anywhere, I don't care where it is, when we find that encouragement coming from people who have more in common with them, the real Jews of the world, not the Zionists, but the real Jews who are actually speaking out in cities all over the world. We've got to try and make those sorts of messages go viral. Everybody's got to retweet that or post it on their Facebook page or upload it to their own YouTube channel or whatever. Encourage that. Show an individual's moral strength is much greater than what a political structure thinks it has, And one of their great tricks is to make us underestimate our own ability to effect the change. Changes that are worthwhile come from the bottom, they don't come from the top. The top tries to impose things on people who resist them, but when the people at the bottom tune in and allow their moral conscience to resonate with the right thing to do, that's an unstoppable force. I don't know what's going to happen here, but I do believe that we have to accentuate that aspect of it rather than get drawn into the negative confrontational type of agenda that the psychopaths want to fight us back on. We fight for peace, if you can even say that, fight for peace. We're looking for harmony and unity and not conflict and atrocities. But there's individual people who will carry out those atrocities, and they must be encouraged to look to their conscience and to realise that there is massive support in the world, massive support right across the globe for Israelis to do the right thing here.
Yeah, that's what we're calling for.
Huge support.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need people with the character of Martin Ivanunu, who stood up and said, "Look, they've got weapons. They've got nuclear weapons here," and he paid for that for his liberty for decades now. But at least he can meet his maker in another form and say to him, "Well, I did my bit. I tried to stop what they did," and that is a choice that all these foot soldiers or fellow, these Zionist foot soldiers, that they're there, they'll get that choice, like you say. Anyway, we're finishing up because we're going to try and get some good brothers for the United States, a rabbi who is openly against Zionism. Thank you for your time,
Superb.
Henry. And
that's exactly the sort of guy we want to hear from. That's exactly the sort of person who everybody that's listening to this show needs to support and retweet and tell 10 to tell 10 and get that voice heard, because that's the more positive force. That's the positive force in the world at this critical time. And there are millions like that who are just waiting for somebody to say, no, I'm not doing it. And they will join. Their opinions will be emboldened and strengthened, and they'll take heart and courage from people who have got that moral strength to step forward and say, enough's enough, I'm not obeying these orders. So, thanks for the call.
No problem.
I hope I can get back online here to listen to this. If not,
I'll
catch you on the rerun.
And I'm hoping I'm going to get a hold of this brother, because I tried him there just in the last wee break and it went off. But so I'm going to take a wee break again and see if I can get a hold of him. But yeah, say a prayer, and I'll speak to you soon, brother, then, God willing.
Thanks, Tony. All the best.
You will.
Stay positive here.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Cheers. Yo.
Right, bear with me, taking another wee break. I'll play this lovely tune, Gather, tonight, and then I'm going to attempt to phone this brother, Rabbi Wise. 2 seconds, we'll be back.
A blinding flash of white light lit up the sky over Gaza tonight. People running for cover, not knowing whether they're dead or alive. They came with their tanks and their planes, with ravaging fiery flames, and nothing remains, just a voice rising up in the smoky haze. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. Women and children alike, murdered and massacred night after night, while the so-called leaders of countries afar debated on who's wrong or right. But their powerless words were in vain, and the bombs fell down like acid rain. But through the tears and the blood and the pain, you could still hear that voice through the smoky haze. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight. We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in the night without a fight. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I just spoke to the rabbi there, Rabbi Wise. He says to phone back in 15 minutes. He's asking me to phone back at 7:30. He's asking me to phone back at 7:30. He's asking, is it a live interview? Yeah, we're waiting for you, brother. We're waiting for you. So, well, what I could do is, well, if it's going to be, if he's wanting some more time, I mean, I would like to take, I was wanting to get him on just now and give him a good 40 minutes run at it, but yeah, even a half an hour if he can manage. So, phone back. So, what time have we got now? Right. What we'll do, we'll fill some airtime. Yes, let's see what we've got here. Hold on.
Is 9-2.
Right, let's put this machine. Well, they're joining us tonight in the first ever broadcast of Palestine Liberation Online Radio, PLO Radio. Stanley Milgram's authority study, psychologyabout.com. It's been Israel equals war crime state at Henry Claassen. Right, let's see. I'm going to go in and get this other guy's number. Did I save it? I'm not sure if I saved his number. What's it going to be in there? No, I did.
Mobile number you have called is currently unavailable.
I hate that sound. The mobile number you called is unavailable. Right, so bear with me. I'll try to phone him, but try to get somebody else on here. Oh, no, it's on this one. I'll be on this one. No. Sorry, I'm scanning through a number that I saved in here earlier on, but I maybe liked it. Did I save it? I don't think I saved it. Oh, that's on there.
Please press 1 if you wanted.
Right. So we're just waiting the rabbi from the United States of America now. He's from a group of people called Nutricatra, yeah. Right, bear with me. Let's see how we got it on here. Right, so I'll get a wee thing from the last month, or sorry, when Ahmadinejad from Iran on the 27th of September, the Nutricatra, spelled Neturei, Nutricatra, opposed the establishment of and retained all opposition to the existence of the so-called State of Israel. Nutricatra is an Aramaic term for guardians of the city. The name Nutricatra originates from an incident in which Yehuda HaNasi, Rabbi Judah the Prince, sent Haya and Ashi on a pastoral tour of inspection. In one town they asked to see the guardians of the city, and the city guard was paraded before them. They said that these were not the guardians of the city, but its destroyers, which prompted the citizens to ask who then could be said the guardians. The rabbi answered, the scribes and the scholars, referring to them the Telem, Psalms, chapter 127, Jerusalem, Talmud, Tractate Hagia 76c. The name was given to a group of Orthodox Jews in Jerusalem who refused and still refuse to recognize the existence or authority of the so-called State of Israel, and made and still make a point of publicly demonstrating their position, the position of the Torah, on authentic, unadulterated Judaism. The group was founded in Jerusalem, Palestine in 1938, splitting off from Agudas Yisrael. Agudas Yisrael was established in 1912 for the purpose of fighting Zionism. Gradually lured by the money and honour, they sold out to the Golden half. See Exodus 32 of Zionism. So Agus Yisrael was obviously, they sold out for the 30 shekels of silver to the golden calf of Zionism. Those who wanted to maintain their faith and continue the struggle against Zionism disassociated themselves from Agus Yisrael and associated parties. Over the years, a number of Nutre Carter activists and followers settled outside of Palestine. Some of the reasons that these individuals abandoned the country in which they and their families have lived for many generations, having lived there many years prior to the establishment of the illegitimate so-called State of Israel, include ideological refusal to live under the illegitimate heretical Israeli regime. They are being exiled by the Zionist government for their insistence of remaining independent of the illegitimate heretical regime, or them being unable to live a normal family life due to them and their families being persistently harassed, repeatedly incarcerated, and many times even physically tortured by the Zionist police and agents. This dispersion resulted in the emergence of various Nutre Carter establishments on the broader international scene. These establishments include synagogues, educational institutions, publishing houses, and organizations. The establishments in New York include 3 synagogues of Brooklyn, Borough Park, and Williamsburg, 3 upstate, and organizations including Friends of Jerusalem in New York, NY. Nutre Carter is not, as often as alleged, a small sect or an extremist group of ultra-Orthodox Jews. The Nutre Carter have added nothing to, or nor have they taken anything away from the written oral law of the Torah as expressed in the Halakha and the Shulchan Aruch. If anyone is a Hebrew natural speaker, please apologise for my, or is that Aramaic, I don't know. Please apologise, I try my best. I've heard the name Halakha. Halakha Media. Halakha means truth in Arabic. Halakha, yeah. Halakha, well, I don't know, it's a Q, so yeah, anyway. I think that means truth. The Nutre Carter are fighting the changes and inroads made by political Zionism during the past 100 odd years. Guided by the rebels of our time and under the inspiring leadership of the late Rabbi Amram Blau, the Nutre Carter refused to recognise the right of anyone to establish a Jewish state during the present period of exile. There are those who wish to play down the Nutre Carter and its Torah true beliefs. This has been attempted many a time by stating that the Nutre Carter is an minority group, and compared to other Jewish groups, the Nutre Carter aren't even noticeable in terms of number. The name, and I do apologise, I hope to God I'm saying this the right way, the Nutre Carter is the name usually given to those people who regularly play in the Nutre Carter synagogues. Torah Yevera, Yusram Torah, Utifala, London, Torah, Utifala, New York, Bez, Yehudi, upstate New York, etc. Study or send their children to educational institutions run by Nutre Carter, or actively participate in activities, assemblies or demonstrations called by the Nutre Carter. Although it's true that the number of families which could be classified as Nutre Carter members or activists per se is relatively small, several thousand, the number of Orthodox Jews who believe in the anti-Zionist ideology that Nutre Carter is known for number the hundreds of thousands. Nutre Carter oppose the so-called State of Israel, not because it opposes secularity, but because the entire concept of a sovereign Jewish state is contrary to Jewish law. Let's repeat it. The reason why this group of people oppose it is because they're against the so-called State of Israel, is because it, not because it operates in a secular state manner, but because the entire concept of a sovereign Jewish state is contrary to Jewish law. All the great rabbis who, in accordance with Jewish law, opposed Zionism at its inception did not do so merely to consideration of the secular lifestyle of the then Zionist leaders, or even for the opposition to Torah heritage and rejections of its values and practices, but due to the fact that the entire concept of a Jewish state is in direct conflict with a number of Judaism's fundamentals. I could read all the way through this, but this brother is, I want to get him on the line. So without further ado, there's more there. Let's get it from the main brother himself, Rabbi David Wise. God willing, we're going to get him on here just now.
Your credit is...
There we go. Come on. Hello? There this is.
Your credit is £7. £1,330 minutes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Rabbi Wise.
Oh, he's not available. Who's calling?
Oh, it's Tommy in Glasgow. I phoned him 5 minutes ago. He said to phone back for doing an interview.
1 minute, please.
Okay.
Yes, hello?
Hello, Rabbi Wise. Hello.
Yes, can I ask you to call me on another line? I tried to tell you this, but you didn't hear it.
Hold on, give me a second. I'll get it in there. Hold on, sorry. Yeah, on you go. Yeah. Yeah. So can you repeat? So repeat that again, sorry. Sorry, it's not. I was cut out very badly there. Can you repeat it again? Sorry. 00. Yeah. 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 Got it. Yeah. Yeah. 04. Okay, no problem. I'll phone on that just now then. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Okay. Right, 2 seconds. Up there. Right, so I've got the brother on there, and we'll get him on here, God willing now.
Your credit is 7. $1,299 minutes. Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. Your credit is £7. pound. $1,295 minutes.
Hello?
Yeah, 1 minute, please.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Rabbi Wise. It's Tommy here, Tommy Gold in Glasgow. How you doing, brother?
Thank God. Okay.
Are you okay just now, yeah?
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you for taking the time to join me, brother. And so your full name is Brother Rabbi...
Yes, hello?
Hello, yeah, Rabbi. Sorry, what was your full name again? Sorry, brother.
Rabbi Yisrael David Weiss
And the organisation that you represent?
is in the Ture Karta.
Natura Carta?
The Ture Karta Jews United Against Zionism.
Jews United Against Zionism. And thank you very kindly, brother, for joining me tonight. If you wouldn't mind taking some time before we get up to speed with current events, if you wouldn't mind telling me a little bit about yourself or your organisation to share with the good listeners, please.
Yes, okay. First of all, thank you very much for having me on your program. It's an honor and a privilege. I really do appreciate this. We feel it's a godly obligation as a religious Jew, actually, to be speaking about this issue of misrepresentation of our religion. Our organization basically tries to clarify to the world the concept of what Judaism means contrasting to what Zionism is. We find around the world people confuse these two subjects. They think that Zionism and Judaism is one and the same. They believe that are we connected?
Yeah.
Yeah. They believe that the state of Israel represents world Jewry, that it represents the belief of the Jewish people, the ideal of the Jewish people, something that we're yearning to have our own homeland, something like a long lost dream, or things like that. In essence, and the truth of the matter is that it could be nothing further from the truth, actually, because Judaism and Zionism are the diametric opposites. Judaism is simply basically the concept of a religion, a subservience to the Almighty, to accept His teaching, His Torah, to accept His rule over the entire universe, the Almighty's rule over the entire universe, and to be subservient, to accept all the laws of the Torah that commands us to just the basic, let's say, to emulate the Almighty, just as He is compassionate, we should be compassionate, and so forth, and all the laws, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. Zionism is a transformation into nationalism, a yearning for a piece of land to be recognized as a nation amongst nations. It's basically, essence is that it is a physical or material concept that should be able to boast its place in the world as a first world country with all of the leakings that go along with that, an Olympic team and a gold medal winning team and a strong military and and all these things, trappings of a nation that is a physical material concept. So it's really totally contradictory to us. And to add to that, there is an actual ruling, there's an actual decree of the Almighty since the destruction of the temple, the Jewish temple in Jerusalem around 2,000 years ago. And anybody can read any of the books, basic books prophecies, Isaiah, Ezekiel, all the Jewish prophecies, it's clear that God warned the Jewish people that if we would not be on the proper level of holiness, then we will be expelled from the land. It's called the exile. We were sent into the diaspora around 2,000 years ago with the destruction of the temple, and we were clearly commanded by the Almighty that we should not make any attempt to reinstate a Jewish sovereignty. In fact, in any part of the world, we are not to make a Jewish sovereignty. We are to wait patiently till the day when the Almighty, through His own, without any intervention of humankind, that God Himself will rebuild Jerusalem, and He'll make a metaphysical change, a miracle, where all the world will believe in the Almighty, and we will all together go up and serve Him in harmony, and then God will rebuild the temple, and then we will go up and serve Him. So this concept of trying to create a state, of course, and to double that with force against the will of the people, this is all contrary to the Jewish teachings. It's entirely forbidden, and it flaunts God's words. It rebels against God's commandment to accept His what is called punishment or His medicine, that we are not to attempt to make our own Jewish sovereignty. So this would all be forbidden for us, even if it would be in an uninhabited land, a land that would be desolate. We are forbidden to make 1 inch of Jewish sovereignty. And this was respected and upheld the 2,000 years of our trials and tribulations since we were driven from the Holy Land 2,000 years ago into Babylon, and we were dispersed throughout the world. Now, to compound this terrible crime, what Zionists came around 100 years ago, and they decided to create a nationalist home and call it the Jewish homeland and the Jewish state and so forth. This crime against the Almighty is compounded thousandfold, because in the homeland that they are creating it in, which is called Palestine, or which is referred to as Palestine, this happens to be an inhabited land that was for hundreds of years inhabited by a people. So to go now and to remove them from the land, force them out through intimidation or whatever manner, even if it wouldn't be forcing out, but to put pressure or whatever, how you call it, and especially that they forced them out, they drove them out to steal, to kill, to oppress, to subjugate. All this is expressly forbidden according to Jewish school. So in every facet, this concept of the so-called Jewish state, the state of Israel, is a direct rebellion against the Almighty, and universally the rabbinical authorities and the ones who are true to Judaism around the world opposed it from day one, and till today you will find the very religious communities around the world stand in fast opposition to every inch of this rule, this Zionist state, the state of Israel. We pray every day for the speedy and total and peaceful dismantlement of the state, and we look at with tremendous embarrassment and humiliation what is being done in our name. That they wave the Star of David, a Jewish symbol. They hijacked our identity, our name Israel, and they wave our symbol, and they tell the world that what they're doing now presently in Gaza and the other, and all through Palestine, whatever they're doing is in the name of God, and they're killing, maiming, murdering, totally destroying a people. This is for us, our hearts cry for these people who are suffering. It is just a terrible, terrible tragedy, and for us a double and triple tragedy is being done in our name. And we have to, and our cries of protest are stifled because the media is basically have bought into the Israeli claim that they represent the world Jewry, and anybody who stands in opposition is some wayward or crazy or extreme self-hating Jew. And of course, the non-Jews are anti-Semitic and all that. So we stand here, we go out in demonstrations, whether it is in London or we went for the last few days here in the United States in front of in Times Square and in front of the Israeli embassy. We protest and we cry and we protest, and it happens to be that the Zionists in the Holy Land, where we were protesting there, the Jews are brutally beaten. And again, this is not even shown. That the Jews are constantly, from day one till today, they're brutally, the Jews who we're non-militant, we go out and simply voice our despair and opposition, and they're brutally, and our fellows, my colleagues, are brutally beaten and killed and arrested in their rogue state. So that's basically the issue that we're talking about here. There's a lot more to discuss about this, but this is the basic, this terrible what the Arabs call Nakba, this tragedy that is ongoing for well over 60 years and really 100 years since the Zionists started going up to the Holy Land.
From what you're saying, brother, it's so soothing to hear. It's beautiful words, harrowing yet beautiful that someone like yourself can voice these opinions, and for the rest of the world there. And it's to our shame that the media stations have not got people like yourself on there showing the true message of Judaism. For myself, for what it's worth, many times I have quoted stuff that you have said there, like in the Jewish, I've quoted on British radio, I've said even in the own Jewish scriptures, where for 2,000 years they would not return to their homeland where they came from because of what was prescribed. And can I ask you, brother, was it around when the time when the temple was destroyed, was it about 75 AD? Can you give me, for your benefit of myself and people who are not fully clued up with what happened, if you're a scholar on it, brother, I would love you and I beseech you to share what you know, what happened at that time with us all, and because obviously what happened, how the covenant with the Jewish people was, would you say, would be broken from God at that time? Is that how it's portrayed? Can you fill us in from this point in time, please, brother?
Yes. Well, basically, the Jewish people actually accepted the covenant on Mount Sinai around 3,000 years ago, and basically we went up and we were told by God that we have to go up to the Holy Land. Interestingly enough, again, if somebody reads the Bible and the books of the prophets, you'll see clearly that the Jews, there were some amongst the Jewish people who were fearful of going up, and they didn't want to hold, a war with the indigenous populace. God, the Torah says many times that the people that were at that time in the present, at the time of the past, living over there in the Holy Land, they were idol worshippers, and God, it says in the Torah that God warns that you should not profane the land, because if you will, the land itself will regurgitate you. And what happened was Joshua, the prophet, after Moses passed away, they were supposed to go up at the time of Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu we call him, and there were some who were fearful to go up, and the Jews were punished because it was a God's command that they should go in to the Holy Land. They had to wander 40 years in the wilderness, and many people know that story. And when and afterwards, Joshua the prophet took the Jews up, and they went in. But again, it was like a miraculous event. What happened was they went into Jericho. They walked around the walls of Jericho, and the walls of Jericho sunk. So this was all God's will. It wasn't like they wanted to. There was a type of concept of some type of self will to take over another people's land, and the people over there were offered the choice of not to serve idol worship, which God commanded, and they could say. Anyway, basically, what happened was the Jewish people went in there. They were, and it was the rise of King David, and later, it was the prophets of Samuel and so forth, and the house of King David. And the Jews then there were prophets who came along, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, and they warned the Jewish people that they have to they have to remain on a very high level of holiness, because this is like, so to say, God's garden, and He expects that we should be on a tremendously high level of holiness. If not, then we will be again banished from the land, and that is what happened. Eventually, God brought there was the Romans, there was the Greeks, and the Jews were driven from the land into exile around 2,000 years ago, and they were expressly warned. We were put under oath by God. There was 3 oaths, and this is in the prophecy of King Solomon in the book called the Song of Songs of King Solomon, that we were put under 3 oaths that when we were sent into exile. One, that large numbers to the Holy Land. Secondly, we are not to rebel against any nation. We are to be loyal citizens in every country we're residing. And thirdly, we are not to make any attempt to end exile. What we do is which is the custom that we've been doing in the law of the Jewish people. Anybody can open the Jewish prayer book. You will see that our prayers are centered around that God should accept our repentance and that God should, we say, because of our sins we were driven from the land, and we pray to God, especially on the high holidays. We pray for one thing, the revelation of the glory of the Almighty. Our lives are to elevate ourselves to glorify the Almighty, and the pinnacle of this is the day when we pray that ultimately the whole world should recognize the glory of the Almighty God, should reveal His glory, when all humanity will recognize God, and then God will rebuild Jerusalem, we will all go up and serve. So in other words, it will be, if I have to stand with a gun at a Palestinian or at anybody and say, hey, give me back the land, this is not what it means. It will mean a time when there will be a spirit of repentance, of belief in God. We will all, we say this in our prayers, that we will, all the nations will make one group, and we will all go up and serve God. So as the Jewish people, we do is patiently wait and pray, and we have to serve God and try to better ourselves today, every day, in the service of God, to be good, to emulate God, to be holy, to be kind, to be just, and to do kindness and so forth. And ultimately, we look to God that He will make this miracle. We will wake up one day, everybody will believe in God, and then we will be able, all humanity will go up and we will serve God. This is the basic Jewish belief. Now, there's one other concept that I didn't mention. It happens to be that in these 2,000 years of exile, we were driven and dispersed throughout the world, and we did, as anybody reads the following of Jewish history, we served kings and leaders, and we teach our children to be loyal, to pray. We are required, it says, having this power, we should pray Shalom HaMalchus, to pray for the good of the king, of the kingdom, to pray for the good of the king. We pray for the prosperity and the good and the peace of every land that we're residing. And this is, and one of the prayers is that we pray that God should put in the hearts and minds of the kings and rulers that they should not want war, they should want peace. But we basically are required to be loyal citizens of every land. And there's another requirement that we should we should remember good that has been done to us. These are the basic teachings of the Torah, that we should remember that good has been done and be grateful and show our gratitude for good that has been done. Now, in the last around 1,000 years, Jewish people have been dispersed in many Muslim lands, almost in all the Muslim lands. And even more than 1,000 years, we've been in Yemen, and we've been in Iran, and Jewish people have been residing there. And since the Islamic movement started, which was around 1,000 years, we've been living amongst them. And a lot of times they've provided for us a safe haven, and they've opened their doors and given hospitality to the Jewish people. We flourished in all their lands. We flourished at a time when we had to run away from the Inquisition and the Crusades and many other trials and tribulations. And we lived and flourished in Arab and Muslim, and we are required to show our gratitude. And now to come along and to claim and just with a sweep of the hand to say, oh, the Arabs and the Muslims, there's an ingrained hate to the Jews. They hate us. They want to kill all the Jews, and that's why the Palestinian people, the people of Palestine, they want to destroy and kill or drive us into the sea. That is pure, vile, repugnant Zionist propaganda that is totally false. We have Jewish people who can attest to the fact that we've lived and babysat each other's children in Palestine, in Jerusalem, that are still alive. They remember over 70 years ago how we lived together, and this is a fact. And in all the Muslim lands, to go now and instead of paying back good to these people, just like I say, to stamp the Muslim world as haters of the Jews is so repugnant and vile. There's no word, and it creates anti-Semitism. The Zionism, the state of Israel, is the greatest factory of exacerbating anti-Semitism throughout the world. We have communities till Zionism came about that flourished, as I said, in Egypt, in Morocco, Tunisia, Yemen, and all these countries. And since Zionism has come about, thank God, in Morocco, we still have those small communities, and in Iran, and they protect and respect the Jewish community. But Zionism has basically driven a rift and a mistrust for the Jewish people of these lands, and they've created an endless river of bloodshed of the Palestinian non-Jews and other people and the Jewish people, an endless river of bloodshed that can point their hands at the Zionists and claim that squarely in their court they're responsible for this. They're the root cause of this endless river of bloodshed. Not we're condoning the bloodshed, but we're saying they are the cause. If we would just simply remove this flawed and selfish and illegitimate ideology of Zionism, the creation of a so-called Jewish state that belongs to me, not to you, and this, remove that, then we have removed the impediment to peace, and we can once again live together as we've had for hundreds of years. The different people, the Arab and the Jews, without any impediment to peace. I'm not saying there was never any bumps in the road, but we lived together. We flourished without any human rights groups or United Nations. This is a fact of history. Anybody can go to the Arab countries and still see the synagogues that were beautiful and built not even so long ago. I was just in Egypt, and you can see synagogues that is less than 100 years old. Beautiful big synagogues that were built because Jews were flourishing there. Zionism came along and destroyed all of this, and then they have the audacity to point their hands at the Muslims and claim it's because they hate the Jews and they're anti-Semitic. I say there's no words to describe our humiliation, our shame, and our frustration at all of this.
Yes, brother. Have you still got time to carry on the chat just now, brother? Are you okay for some more time? Because I'm conscious I don't know too much time you can afford with me just now. Are you still free to chat for just a little bit longer?
Yes, certainly, yes.
Because there's so much stuff that I would love to talk to you on. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to just be closing off this show just now, and I'm going to go on and record the rest of it so as we can come back. Because what I'm doing is another show coming on with some good brothers in the Homeboys, so I don't want to cut into their time. So what I'll do, I'm just going to bring to an end from the rabbi here just now, and I'll close the show down if I can get into it, and I'll bid all my good people out there good night, and at a later stage, either later on tonight or God willing tomorrow, we'll play out the rest of it. So hold on a second, brother. So
thank you.
2 seconds. Thank you for joining us, and I'll just finish it.